This video is about reliability and validity. These are two important concepts that can get a little confusing. So we are actually going to start out with a demonstration. Now what I want you to do this is I'm going to say you'll need a pencil and a piece of paper or a pen, whatever. And when I say go, I want you to start making hash marks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 slash like this, you know, on paper as fast as you can until I say stop. Okay. All right. So get your paper, get your pencil ready. And all right, you ready? Okay. So go. Stop. Okay. Now just draw a line and we're going to do another trial. Okay. So when I say go, start making your hash marks until I say stop. Ready, go. Stop. Okay. Draw a line. We're going to do a third trial. This is the last one. So when I say go, make your hash marks. Okay, ready, go. Stop. Okay, so we're going to call the first trial just a practice. So what I want you to do is count up your hash marks. So like I have 10, you probably have a lot more. Count up the hash marks for trial 2 and then for trial 3 and get a score for yourself for trial 2 and trial 3. Okay, you can pause the video and do that. Okay, so you have your 2 scores. Now the first thing I want to ask is how similar were your scores? There are going to be some people when they do this, they get the exact same score. So maybe they got 36 on trial 2 and 36 on trial 3. So some of you may have gotten the same score. Some of you may have just been 1 or 2 off. Some of you may have been wildly different. But if we were sitting in a class, I guarantee you, out of 25 people, there'd be at least 2 maybe that got the same score and another 3 or 4 people that were within 1 or 2. So what that tells us is this is a very reliable measure, a reliable test, because reliability is if you take the measure multiple times, do you get the same answer? And so this test, if you took it 3 times, and 2 of those times you may have gotten the same or very similar answer. And so that's reliability. In fact, that is a specific kind called test-retest reliability. You took the exact same test again, got the same score. So here we have a very reliable test. Now I would start asking you, okay, so who got a high score? What's a high score? And sometimes people 30s, up in the 40s, maybe even close to 50. I said, wow, that's a really great score. And what's the low end? And some people in the 20s, and like, oh, that's, you know, I'm kind of worried about you. See me after class for some referral information. Because I'll say, because what you guys were doing here is going as fast as you can. And there's actually a very high correlation between motor speed and cognitive processing speed. So this is a really quick and easy Dr. Cooper super duper intelligence test. And of course, at this point, you would see, well, that's ridiculous. There's really no way that how quickly you do things on paper relates to, excuse me, your intelligence. So what you would be saying to me is this is not a valid test of intelligence. So we have here a reliable but not valid test. Okay, and so that's the first thing I want you guys to be able to handle is this relationship between reliability and validity. We are in chapter 5 for this, and we're trying to, you know, get a handle on variables and how we measure them. And to have a good measure, we need it to be both reliable and valid. Now, you can't be valid without being reliable. Okay, so you have to have reliability first to even think about validity. But as we just saw, it's possible to have a reliable test that is not valid. You know, you get the same score every time, but it doesn't actually measure what you think it measures or what you want it to measure. So at this point, I want you to pause the video, and there's a quiz called Reliability and Validity. I want you to go and take that quiz. It's kind of a word game quiz, but just to try and get this handle between the relationship between them. So go ahead, pause, do that, and come back. Okay, hope the quiz went well, and you're starting to sort of get these two terms in your head. So now we're going to go on to some of the different types of reliability. So let me just put up a slide for us to look at. Hang on. Okay. Okay. So your book, there's lots of ways to cut this up. Your book is going to talk about 3 reliabilities, so we'll just stick with those. Test-retest we just did. I'm trying to measure whatever that measured. I mean, how fast you can write lines, I guess. And you did it 3 times, and some of you, a lot of you, were going to get a similar score. So it's a pretty good test of how quickly you can make lines on paper, right? If you were to take something like the SAT or the GRE, those are pretty reliable tests. So if you take it one day and you get your score and you're like, I'm not really happy, and you're going to take it a month later, unless you've done anything to really change yourself, and even if you just study a little bit, you're going to find those tests are very reliable. So they will often, if you take that test a couple times, you're going to get a very similar score. So again, and that's what we want in most measures, because if we're measuring something that we don't think changes too much, like I measure your personality, well, my personality measure should give me a similar answer or outcome in January as it does in May, because we don't think your personality has really changed, okay? So test-retest is good for that. Now, internal reliability is really when we look at one survey or one test, usually in some kind of personality test or test of depression or anxiety. We're going to have multiple questions, and you're not going to answer just 1 or 2 questions. You're going to be like 20 questions or 100 questions, and multiples are all trying to see, are you narcissistic? Are you depressed? Are you anxious? They're trying to measure the same thing. So if multiple questions are trying to get at the same thing, then your answers to those multiple questions should be correlated. They should be similar. If I have an exam I give you over chapters 1 through 4, and I have multiple questions over a concept like reliability, and you really know this concept, then you should be able to answer all of those questions correctly. But if you're just here and there, I got that one right, I got that one wrong, and it's all over the place, and there's no internal reliability, that then says maybe those questions aren't a good measure of what you understand. Okay. The last one for reliability is inter-rater, and that's usually when we have behavior that we're watching. So we need observers, or if we just have people taking some kind of measurement, taking your blood pressure, for example. Inter-rater reliability means if Bob does it and Sue does it, they get similar answers, similar scores, meaning the person taking the measure. So I have a nurse come in and take your blood pressure. I have another nurse come in and take your blood pressure. Well, assuming your blood pressure hasn't changed in the last 5 minutes, they should get very similar readings. And if they do, then I trust their ability to do the reading. I trust the equipment that they're using, okay? If I have 2 psychologists watching behavior, kids running around being aggressive, and they're scoring behaviors, I need to see that they write down similar things and they count the same number of behaviors to show that my measure is reliable. All right, so at this point, what I want you to do is there's a worksheet that it goes with this. Can't find my worksheet. I printed it out. It's called Practicing Reliability and Validity. It is posted on the website. Sorry, I was going to show it to you. Oh well. It's posted on your daily worksheet. You'll see it on Blackboard. Just print that out, or I guess you can use it on your computer. And what I want you to do, it's a Cosmo quiz, and you're supposed to then kind of think about these different kinds of reliabilities and do they apply? And if you wanted to get that kind of reliability on the quiz, what would you have to do? So do the 3 reliability questions on that worksheet, and then come back, watch more of the video, and we'll do more stuff. Okay, so go do that worksheet right now. Okay, I hope you did the worksheet and you're not just watching, because this stuff gets confusing and there's a lot to know, so it really helps you if you can just take a break, do the work. Actually, you have to do reading. Hopefully you read the book and did the worksheet. If not, go back and read the book, because it has more detail and examples, and your guys are really going to need that. Okay, if you're done with the reliability part, let's go on to the validity. The first kind of validity your book mentions is really a stupid kind of validity. Nobody it's worthless, but it's in every textbook, so we always mention it. It's called face validity. It means if you look at some measure, like if someone came up with a survey, and I have a new survey on how to measure if people understand the concept of validity. Okay. And I look at it, and I look at the questions and go, it looks like it measures that. So all it means on the face of it, it seems to measure what you're trying to measure. So I want to know how much people like broccoli. And I have this, and like, hey, look at my new broccoli survey. And I look at it and go, it seems to measure how much people like broccoli. It's completely worthless statistically, but it's this idea. So there you go. The very first one, easy. If you look at, well, I won't use a Cosmo quiz example because you have your worksheet. Okay, the next one is content validity. So the thing I'm trying to measure, and a lot of times with this, it applies to surveys, things that psychologists come up with to ask you questions, to measure something about you, because we measure attitudes and personality and all of these things about you that we can't see by having you answer questions. So content validity means my survey, my 10 questions or 20 questions, actually capture everything I'm trying to get at, okay? I'm interested in whether or not you're depressed, so I have these questions to answer, and I get everything in there. It also means, another way to look at it is, do the questions cover the content of what I'm measuring? If you had to take some kind of, video tutorial, like you're going to be a camp counselor or work in the housing, in the dorms, or with kids, and you have some kind of training video, usually you watch the video, and then at the end there's some kind of quiz you have to take to show you learned what you had to learn. So the content validity was, does the quiz actually cover all of the things you were supposed to learn? When I give you an exam, does the exam cover the material on chapters 1 through 4 for week 1 exam? If the questions do, then it has content validity. Okay, again, it's kind of your book calls it a subjective kind of validity. So there's more important ones coming up, but these are 2 to just get us started. All right, 3 more you need to know. Now, criterion validity, and these start to get complicated because different books treat them differently. But criterion validity is often what other people will call predictive validity. And it means, does your test, the answer to your test or your measure, match something you're going to do usually in the future? So, does your GPA from high school predict what your GPA will be from college? If you take like some kind of career test, you'd be good in these careers, does that then accurately predict, you go into that career, do you do well? That would be a criterion validity. The criterion is some kind of outcome, some other measure of behavior or something you do that this test I'm giving you then accurately predicts how you'll do on this other criterion. Okay, so known groups paradigm means like the test, your answer on this test or survey will match the answers that I get from a known group. So if I have people who are really good in their careers, they're great salesmen, or they're great teachers, or they're very successful, and they answer these questions in a certain way. And so I give you your survey and I go, what do you like to do in your free time? What's your personality like? And then I say, you would make a great teacher because the answers you gave match what great teachers give as their answers. So that would be what the teachers give, the known group, is the criterion. And because the measure seems to get you to match, that has criterion validity. All right, 2 more. Convergent, and then the flip side, divergent. If my new measure has convergent validity, it means the answers I get when I measure your depression or anxiety or personality match another measure of the same thing. One way to think about it, the difference between criterion and convergent typically is criterion has to do with a future measure, and convergent has to do with a measure I'm taking right now. So I have an old, there used to be this test where you had to answer 200 questions. It took a long time to measure something about your personality. I think I can do it in 10. So I'm going to give you my 10 question survey and see if it gives me the same answer as the 200 question survey. And if it does, I have convergent validity. I also might want to look at different kinds of measures. So let's say I want to measure extroversion, and I have you answer some questions. And based on that, I say, oh, yes, you're very extroverted. Well, I might look at other measures of extroversion. Like I might observe you as you walk into a room and I say, oh, well, you know, extroverted people tend to introduce themselves to others within a few minutes. And you do that too. Oh, so that's convergent validity with the survey I gave you that said you're extroverted. Or I may interview your friends and family and say, oh yeah, they're very extroverted. Say, oh, convergent validity. It's like all of these different measures are pointing to the same answer. They're converging on the same answer. Now the flip of that I would want my new test to discriminate between the thing I'm measuring and something else that might be similar. So let's see, let's say I have a new test of depression, and I want people that score high on it are going to, I say, depressed. Well, I want to make sure people don't score high on it for other reasons. Like I only want depressed people to score high on my scale, but not anxious people. So I need to have questions where it's going to be able to tease apart who's actually depressed and who's anxious, and that would be discriminant validity. So it shouldn't match measures of anxiety. It should only have convergent validity with other measures of depression, and divergent or discriminant, they're synonymous, validity with measures of other things that I'm not trying to get at. Okay, I think that does it for us right now. So what I need you to do is now go read those pages in the chapter about the validities, and now finish that worksheet with the Cosmo quiz and think about the kinds of validity. Now again, you're going to have to pay really close attention when you're reading, really look at those examples. One thing you can kind of skim a little bit, they talk about using correlation or using a scatter plot to evaluate reliability. That I should have told you earlier, you can kind of skim. But then they have really good examples, starting on page 133, about the different reliabilities. So 133, 134, really good examples. The rest of the validity all looks pretty good. There's a great table on page 138 you want to refer to. But make sure you do a careful reading of this. All right, it's kind of our lecture, is your textbook. You can go at your own pace, that's nice. And finish that worksheet and then take the quiz, chapter 5, as many times as you want.